The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Longevity Plus would like to thank you for joining our webinar today. Our host, Dr. Gordon, is an expert on nutrition, mineral metabolism, and anti-aging. Dr. Gordon is a consultant to Longevity Plus, where he is responsible for designing effective, natural supplements that help to support optimal health. Today, Dr. Gordon will be talking about methylation support, toxins, and memory loss. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Gary Gordon.
Good afternoon, everyone. You're in for an exciting update on why I feel so great at age 76, and it's going to start out with some things that you're not aware of. The Earth's magnetosphere, according to this NASA graphic, is going through some interesting changes. They call it the collapse of our Earth's magnetic field. And this is an actual NASA presentation, and it says that that magnetic field guards the planet and guides many of its creatures. The field strength has waned 15% so far, and it's accelerating as of late. So what does that mean to you and I? Well, our talk today is going to encompass things like obesity and detoxification and memory and aging. And it turns out that whenever you and I swallow a supplement, nothing happens until it is metabolized. And if we moved to Mars, we would die immediately because it is a dead planet, because it has no magnetism, and Earth is threatening to go that direction at this point in time. It's not a final change. It's just a temporary change that's called Earth changes, but clearly every organism requires these magnetic signals, and what is happening I am so excited about, because at age 76, after 50 years of a chronic stiff, painful back that had prevented me from standing straight or running or jogging, I have in 2 months of using a magnetic device on top of the nutrients been able to change my life. But let's talk about that. What we notice, if we look at cells, they have to have a transmembrane potential in order for the cell to have the pump. We call it a sodium pump, a calcium pump. The cell has to exchange and bring the nutrients in and take the toxins out. And it doesn't do that without a fully charged membrane, which we always have studied electricity, and there's been some interesting things about Tesla-based electricity that I will get into. But with magnetism, we have something that you absolutely can't have a chance of living without. So what's going on? The magnetic objects produce a line of force, and whether you're a whale that's trying to find your way to Japan from our shores, or a bird trying to go 7,000 miles from Arctic to Antarctic, they need to have the magnetic guidance system. And right now, there's signals that are confusing birds and fish, and it's getting harder for you and I to stay healthy. So let's look more about this. I can take all my supplements, and I have done so. But until my cells have a fully charged membrane potential, the efficiency at which my body is operating at was quite low. We can even have people who can take a methylation support that should stop their diabetic neuropathy, and it won't unless we can restore some useful magnetic field to their legs. And exercise, of course, helps. But the nice thing about magnetism that is now available to us is it is clearly able to turn on stem cell production. Now let's go back in time. About 250 million years ago, we had a lot of creatures we called dinosaurs. Some of them were pretty big. The point of that is, at that time, the Earth's magnetic field was around 30 Gauss, experts believe. Today we're at about 0.3 Gauss for much of the planet, and it has been frighteningly dropping. And if it goes too low, then it will become just like having low oxygen environment. It will be hard for the best supplements, the best diet, and even the best exercise to work, because frankly you won't have the energy to exercise if we take away your oxygen and your magnetic field. So it's very important that the changes going on that they're talking about at NASA are changes that you and I can fight back against. But you've been hearing about birds dropping dead out of the sky. And there are experts today who can tie that into some of these changes of the Earth's magnetic field. For an example, the runway in Tampa, if it used to be listed as 260, it's no longer 260. Why? Because the Earth's magnetic North Pole is moving as much as 40 miles a year because of Earth changes. So as long as we can deal with that and have a positive answer to incorporate in all the other things we do, it's not the end of the game yet. There's still a lot more time, but about every 780 million years, they believe that the poles do switch. Now, you need to have a magnetic field in order for the Earth to have the energy to provide the energy for our body so that we can dump toxins out. And I've had some amazing experiences since we now are placing in doctors' offices a $21,500 device that is allowing some of my doctors to kind of play like they're an altered MRI. When you go in to have an MRI study done, magnetic resonance imaging, they'll give you a field that you'll go through of about 40 to 60,000 Gauss, and they will be able to see exactly where the tumor is in the middle of a person's brain. But we've been able to find that that Gauss level that we've been able to get with this wonderful device that some people have already bought so they could get over Parkinson's or get out of a wheelchair after years of Guillain-Barré, or restore their child back to speaking who's been unable to speak in 15 years because of autism and cerebral palsy. Some people have bought the device for home use. But what's interesting is this. There's no easy one road to solve everybody's problem, because when your cells get this new charge of the transmembrane potential, so the cells start acting efficiently, yes, all the supplements I take are now working better than ever before, because remember, there's no mouth on your cells. There's no rectum on your cells. The cells have to have the efficient exchange of taking the nutrients in and the toxins out, and we've had a really devoted friend of mine become quite ill because of the enthusiasm, wanting to have some of the good things that magnetic field therapy has done for my body, giving me a brand new back after 2 months. It has also made some people see changes, like a cancer started to go away, so they think it's a cure for cancer. It wasn't a cure for cancer. It was only a way of their body reestablishing the health, so the other things they were doing. So it would be very unfortunate to call pulsed electromagnetic field therapy a cancer therapy. It is not. It is a therapy that restores to your body its natural right to efficient metabolism, and the patients who want to get all this benefit have to start slow. You can only have at the most 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes a day maximum for people who might even think they're pretty healthy, because toxins can be released and you can feel like you ran a marathon the next day. So obviously that would lose your enthusiasm for what I'm teaching you today, because I am enthusiastic, because I know that stem cells are treating every kind of disease by giving you brand new stem cells. So at age 76, I'm getting really enthusiastic about how much younger I'm going to be this year, not next year. It's going to happen this year. But my friend Dr. Stephen Sinatra is teaching us more about these earth changes. You know, we all run around now with our thick soles on our feet, and we're running around asphalt. We're not in the green grass, and we're not walking in the mud and getting drowned. And so there are changes that he calls it earthing, and he's really seeing that when we add these new dimensions, because I'm now, instead of telling you how great vitamin C is, which I'll never be able to live without my 16,000 milligrams of vitamin C on this toxic planet, And I'll always take my methylation support, but now I'm letting you know why some people take these things and don't get the bang for the buck, because their cells are not utilizing the expensive nutrients that this world can offer us. We have very exciting nutrients. I just attended a conference all day yesterday at the highest level with exciting new research reports, doing wonderful things. But it has to be against the background of my FIGHT program, the FIGHT that I teach everybody, that the food, the infections, the genetics, the heavy metals, the hormones, the toxins, and the focus we have. And if we just feel lousy, and you know, people aren't sleeping very well. So the last webinar I did 2 weeks ago was just about amazing Chinese treatment. Traditional Chinese medicine has cordialis, and cordialis not only lowers pain, but it lets people have deep sleep. So if we look at all of these problems, we have the plastic soled shoes, we have people not ever getting on wet grass, we don't get the chance to earth. So this book is something you may want to buy, because it's part of where I'm taking everybody with this webinar today. I'm taking you into what Dr. Sinatra on his great website says. I'm taking you into putting the physics back into physician. Now this is a really exciting story, because Dr. Sinatra has really been a real friend of mine. He is one of the few that really understood metabolic cardiology. He and I and Dr. Roberts and others have routinely canceled not just bypass surgery and stenting. I don't let any of my patients have stenting. It's nonsense. I haven't had anybody need a bypass in 20 years. But what's exciting is they also find, as I have, that we can cancel heart transplants on children and adults. But you're not going to do it without getting the full picture, which is why, to keep my credibility, I keep putting up the word fight for your health. And the F could be focus on health, because once you give up and you have no interest, then the rest of it won't work. So the F could be focus on health. And what is your attitude? Are you optimistic that you can make a change, or have you given up? Because the other F is for food, and the next I is for infection, the next G is for, but what we're teaching you here is that there are electroceuticals. Now, you know, we've always been stuck with the black boxes that we laughed at, because 50 and 100 years ago, everybody had a magnet, you know, some kind of an electric device, and even 2,000 years ago, they started thinking about magnetism, and 500-600 years ago, Mesmer started showing that you could do things with these magnets. But they're going to do much more today, because the need is so great, because we're all so toxic, and we need a cell that has a full transmembrane potential. It's like all of you are walking around with your battery 80% drained, and I've got to recharge your battery. So this is kind of interesting, because you can learn how to do that. You can sleep, as I do, on a 20 Gauss magnetic pad that we get from Dr. Bondley at Magnetico Sleep. But there's other things that I'm getting at here. And we have to have people know that whenever you have a magnetic field, you will have electricity induced. And why is that important? Because then cells start communicating, because it takes an electrical charge, a current, to let one cell tell the cell next to them kind of everything they're doing. And in addition to that, whenever you have electricity, you have a magnetic field. So this gets to be kind of interesting about what's going on at the microscope level. So we know that the prolonged weakening of the geomagnetic fields that you and I walk around on this earth are lowering. And we've all been hearing about positive and negative ions, and you know that when you're around a waterfall or you're in the pine trees with the breezes going through the needles, you can get negatively charged air particles. So there's so much to this whole problem of how to stay healthy. But in this slide, we're going to try to show you that we can prove that as the geomagnetic field is declining, your immune system is losing its power. And now you have to sit there and say, well, wait a minute. Isn't it true that every degenerative disease, whether it's arthritis or cancer or Alzheimer's, aging, everything is associated with inflammation, heart disease, etc. And we talk about C-reactive protein. And when we say inflammation, you know, that's kind of when a spider bites you, it gets all red and big, angry and hot and painful and swollen. Well, those are the signs of inflammation. But we have chronic inflammation affecting everybody today. So if you go to my website and you really spend the time to spend an hour on each of the topics, the food, the infection, the genetics, the heavy metals, the hormones, the toxins, you will find that all of us have some major challenges in every one of those areas. There's no one listening to me at this point in time that doesn't have a problem with chronic inflammation related to some infections, whether you think it's candida or you think it's due to cytomegalic virus, or you think it's due to some of the various forms of herpes infections, or you think it's due to some of the new TB things. We have infections in everybody. But now they're throwing another curveball at us. They're telling us in this study, just published a week ago, that Environmental Health Perspectives is showing that the number of chemicals in pregnant women is just absolutely soaring. And so of the 163 chemicals, 43 were found in every one of the women, and they include things that you hear us talk about all the time, toxins, but everybody tells you they have the answer to. They have their detox program. And I put a very jaundiced eye when they tell me that, because since I'm an expert at lead, and since lead is in our bones at 1,000 times more than it ever was a couple hundred years ago, according to Caltech, Claire Patterson, he's published all this, and now we know from Journal of the AMA, with research going on at Harvard, that the level of lead in your bone does determine how soon you go blind with cataracts. And in fact, other research shows that the level of lead directly contributes to how soon we die of everything, whether you're going to die of pneumonia or you have a fractured hip because you fell, because your reflexes were off. Everything is being affected by these toxins, and you can't run. The PCBs are in everybody. That's why the sperm count's dropping worldwide. That's why one day everybody will have to go to a fertility specialist because they won't have babies the old-fashioned way. And so with these pesticides and polybrominated and all the problem we have with mercury and the lead, it's from the burning of coal. That's where you get it. And it's hard to stop breathing. And if you breathe, you are getting lead and mercury from the burning of coal from as far away as China. Proven. This is not my hypothesis. So the Environmental Working Group is a group of parents that are concerned about the fact that 1 in 4 children today going to school, 1 in 4 going in school, in grade school today is on a drug, either for their diabetes, or their ADHD, or their obsessive compulsive, or their autism, or their brain tumor, or their obesity, or whatever. So that's pretty sad to think of becoming a parent today and know that in 1 out of 4 parents has a child that has a serious enough health problem, they have to be on drugs when they go to school. So what happened is the Environmental Working Group at their website, ewg.org, they very simply proved that you can test every single baby. What they did is one morning they took at random the blood, the cord blood, when 10 children were born across the United States. And they sent that blood for expensive analysis. The affordable one is $4,900, which your insurance will not pay for, at Mount Sinai School of Medicine. But they went for one that cost more like $13,000 because they wanted to do a few more chemicals on the blood of each of these babies that were born that day. And of course, they found 287 chemicals, including all of these banned chemicals. They don't go away. DDT is still in everybody. But we have answers. But I want to make sure you understand why methylation is so important. Because you see, everybody thinks that they're getting a vitamin when they swallow a vitamin. And I'm proud that the vitamin that we sell called Beyond Chelation Improved continues to be eliminating fatal heart attacks and fatal strokes on everybody lucky enough to call Longevity Plus and buy these packets of 9 pills and take that packet morning and night, even if they've been telling you that you're going to die because you have advanced coronary artery blockages. I teach my patients that that doesn't apply to them. That's because we have very simple ways to show what the plaque on your arteries came from, because we all have plaque. By age 21, there's plaque. So you're going to put everybody on the bypass table? That's nonsense. So we have to teach people then that these 10 Americans prove that there isn't anyone on the planet. Your child that you're looking at right now is not going to live as long as your child should have lived or enjoy the kind of health without asthma, without obesity, without a learning disorder, without depression. He's not you and your child share this, because what we showed is it's true for the pregnant lady, and it's true for the baby. In fact, it's true for every living person on the planet today. No one can pass the test, so why spend $4,900? Just learn, what are you going to do about it? And my answer is, I'm willing to do everything about it because my body is amazing. At age 76, for me to have a new back, that's crazy. Nobody could offer that to you. A new shoulder, a new knee. I mean, it's amazing. We don't have to buy all these hips and all these knees if you just help your body. And we've been working with Dr. Robert Rowan up in Santa Rosa, and he's really saw patient after patient in his office recently that was able to cancel the knee operation, cancel the hip. But coming back to the environmental working group, what we're teaching you is that 134 chemicals are in the babies that we tested that will cause cancer. 151 of them will cause birth defects and hormone disruptors, and they'll cause infertility, and your immune system won't keep you free of pneumonias, and you'll get every bug that comes along. And then you have neurotoxins, so you can't think, and you get depressed, and you can't handle any stress. Autism is in 1 out of 150 children. There's a huge increase in childhood brain cancer. The leukemia is absolutely leukemia. Lymphoma to me is open and shut toxicity. But because nobody wants to let you have a check for $4,900 to send your blood off to Mount Sinai School of Medicine, they're going to give you another drug which is toxic, and they're going to tell you that's the answer. Well, that's kind of a joke if you really look at the truth. The truth is that Johnson & Johnson is going to introduce this brand new blood test very shortly, which any person can order on their body, and it will find a cancer cell out of 1 billion normal cells by simply drawing some blood out of your arm. You don't have to wait the 7+ years it takes for the tumor to get big enough for your doctor to have something to treat. During those 7 years, if we had done your blood test and you saw a couple of cancer cells, you would have gone on my website, Dr. Gordon's website, and you would put in the word cancer, and you would find it with Dr. Kobayashi in Tokyo, who's an MD, PhD, molecular biologist, oncologist, pathologist that we got funded by the Sun Moon Church to follow 10,000 patients, 10 years, and prove that if we told you that you have a little problem with cancer, that people would really take this detoxification, immune support, they do some saunas, they simplify their diet, they get more sleep, they lower the stress in their blood, and without exception, even if everybody in their family in Tokyo, where we have epidemics of gastric carcinoma and it's gene-linked, nobody developed a gastric carcinoma that was detectable. Of course, we know that all of us have cancer at one point, and so those nicer tests will let us know earlier, just like we have new tests now that will tell anybody if their heart has any serious obstruction or not. You don't have to wait and have an angiogram. PremierHeart.com teaches that, but this is a little disturbing. We have so many people today who don't know what I'm talking about here and don't know how easy it is to get your joints well when you combine good nutrition with the right exercise and the detoxification and add some of the magnetic devices we'll mention here. That what happens is they wind up getting a hip prosthesis. And what's happening now is we're finding that the metals that are in these prosthetic artificial joints are being put in women who still can get pregnant, and they're going to be putting those toxic metals, chromium and cobalt, right into the baby. But that's only on top of all the other metals, unless I get you on Dr. Gordon's detox program, which is pretty simple. It's my power drink, the zeolite called Zeogold. You start out with ACZ for 2 bottles, then you go to Zeogold. And it's my Beyond Chelation Improved, the 9 pills that gives you the omega-3 and the primrose and the phosphatidylserine and the $10 million researched daily defense product that has the garlic and the EDTA and the chelators and a real multiple that can really do some good for you. But we are now getting confused. What are we going to do about the water? If you read the reports in the last week, it's been pretty disgusting to have an actual report released that 40% of the companies selling us bottled water had no willingness to provide data as to what they had done to clean the water they were putting in those bottles. And so when they put it in a bottle, we know we're always getting phthalates, and if it's a very hard bottle, it's going to have bisphenol A. So the phthalates that are in all these things are absolutely going into our body, and then we're paying them $3, $4, $5 for a bottle of water, which half of the companies don't want to provide any data to show that their water is one bit better than what's coming out of the tap. This is not good news. So in any event, we try to cover a lot of this with PBS, and NOVA is a great way for you to learn science. And on PBS, we have done a program. It's called Ghost in Your Genes, trying to teach you that what your grandfather ate had a big influence on whether or not you're going to be diabetic or obese, and what your mom had to do. So there's a lot of things that we've been able to tease out to let you know that if your parents were smoking and drinking while you were in utero, there's going to be some increased risk. And we call some of this epigenetics. That means overnight changes to your genes that may not be good changes. One of these changes is from bisphenol A, and it makes what happened amazing. If we take the bisphenol A that is in a bottle that mothers have used to warm the baby's formula, and they stuck it in the microwave, well, we did the same thing, but we warmed the formula, and then we gave it to the mice. And the lean mice all turned yellow and became obese and became diabetic. Is this what's happening to America? A change in methylation due to a hardener in the plastic called bisphenol A that you and I cannot avoid. Everyone listening to me at this moment has 10,000 times more phthalates in your system today than you had 10 years ago. And of course, we tie that directly to the dropping sperm count and the trouble we have getting babies, and why so many people have to go to a fertility specialist, because we're not treating our bodies nice. And now we can even see that the father being obese has an effect on the next generation. So with all the high fat that's in our diet, we now can see changes in the increased likelihood of metabolic syndrome or pre-diabetes showing up in the offspring. So there's a lot of things to digest here when we talk methylation. What I want you to understand is this. Methylation is kind of like sulfation, acetylation, oxygenation, all these big words. CH3 is a carbon and 3 hydrogen. That's a methyl group. When you have enough methyl groups, you can tie up some of these toxins so they become less toxic. That's worthwhile. But in addition to that, every day you lose millions and millions of cells, die. But it's no problem because your body's set up to make brand new ones. But they did a movie once. It's called Multiplicity. In that movie, they showed that by the time you made the second or third clone, it was like if you use a copy of a copy of a copy, it just isn't good. And that's where the payoff in methylation. If I'm making today, replacing 10 million cells of mine that died today, I'm making sure that I'm taking Beyond B12 sublingually because it's methylcobalamin as well as the methyl form of folic acid. And then I'm using the methyl form of the vitamin C delivery system we call Bioenergy C, and I'm also using the power drink that has in it the greens and the fiber which has got with it EDTA as well as artichoke. And that fiber is loaded with things like beta-cytosterol, which is a major way of toxins leaving your body, as well as supporting your body with things like octacosanol, gamma-oryzanol, and B vitamin. So these things that I do are pretty powerful. You can hardly go wrong, and it's clear to me that I never expected at age 76 that I could get a new back out of the deal. Usually with that age, when I've had trouble with my joints, my neck, the degenerative changes in my spine have been there since I was less than 20 years of age due to all the bad genes and bad eating and bad things and mouthful of mercury and other things that I went through, so that by age 29 I had to close my medical practice because I could not stand. Patients had to be brought to me so I could see them sitting in my chair. And so for me to be feeling this fantastic at age 76, gives me hope that I can help a lot of you who may not feel as good as you want to feel. But methylation then is just a word that I get a methyl group so I can help protect a gene in your body. And in doing this, I'm going to significantly cut down the problem that people have with the immune system, which of course leads into infections, and we have all this problem of autoimmune disease today, and we have all this problem with chronic inflammation that's tied to metabolic syndrome and diabetes and multiple sclerosis and all those diseases that I can absolutely assure you I can change the life of those patients with that. But of course, none of what I'm talking about will be covered under Obamacare because it's all free of drugs, and they're only going to approve the cheap way, because you can make a drug like Valium for 10 cents and sell it to people for $100. I can't do that with omega-3 fish oils. There's no way I can get it for 5 cents. So if I sell you omega-3 and I sell it to you for $10, it really costs over $5 minimum just to get it in the bottle. So I don't have the money to buy Congress the way Big Pharma can buy Congress. And that's why you won't get this health care that I'm discussing in the foreseeable future until we all raise a big stink about what's going on with health care in this country. So the toxic and heavy metal exposure that goes on early in life, and I would like to tell you the bad news that when you were born, the bones in your child's, in you or your child, the bones, had 1,000 times too much lead. And even if you go to my favorite doctors, and I have been the co-founding member of acam.org, and we do have, some 12 to 1,500 members, and we will give you IV chelation. And IV chelation has been a miracle. When I was so sick that I'm telling you I couldn't go up one flight of stairs. After the 8th chelation, I could run up a mountain, so I love chelation. But I can tell you I've done some miracles on a autistic boy that never completed a sentence by age 15, and in 6 weeks of 2 treatments a week, he's able to give a lecture. So I'm pretty excited when after 2 months of treatment, a lady in a wheelchair for 9 years, in 2 months of daily treatment, which she was lucky enough to buy or lease the machine, which is $500 a month. But anyhow, she wound up walking into church after 9 years without needing the wheelchair. So what we're looking at here is these heavy metal exposures are affecting us detrimentally, and these changes come up later in life, and we have a big name for it. Epi means above genetic, because you see, if I tell you that obviously if it's a genetic change, we would think it takes generation after generation for everybody to become diabetic. But if it's something we did to the plastic bottles you drink your water out of, then overnight it would be above genetics, and overnight you could have everybody having inability to metabolize sugar properly, or called metabolic syndrome, and then have an immune system that doesn't work, and an inability to slow their aging process. So DNA methylation and Alzheimer's is a fascinating topic. And I'd like to make it very clear that since we've seen such dramatic success on a Parkinson's patient using magnetic therapy, and a patient with paralysis from Guillain-Barré, and a patient with autism, I'm pretty familiar that if you learn what I can teach you, you will not have to worry about Alzheimer's disease either, because it all ties to the same thing. Everything that I'm talking to you about, whether you're worried about obesity or cancer or premature aging or losing your memory, is all tied to how efficiently your body is being nutrified. And when we have to give you nutrients, obviously if your body is unable to use the nutrients, you're not getting the bang for the buck I want you to have, which is why I've raised this issue about earth changes today. We all know everything's going to go better with exercise. Everything's going to go better if you spend some time in a sauna. Everything's going to do better if you stop eating all junk foods. But what we're saying in here is that they're now trying to tell people that they're going to look for plaque in people a lot earlier and see if the plaque is lining parts of your brain so they can tell you that you're getting into Alzheimer's. Actually, that's useful because in a sense, some people, rather than committing suicide or jumping off a bridge, might say, well, if I'm showing some changes that could lead to Alzheimer's, maybe I'll stop smoking, and maybe I'll start exercising, and maybe I'll get in the sauna. Maybe I'll go on Dr. Gordon's website and spend 7 hours listening hour by hour to food, infection, genetics, heavy metal, hormone toxins, so I'll know what to do. Because I can affect all of them by giving you more vitamin C, but I can do them all better if I give you a power drink. So across the board, as I'm working on making you aware of what we can do, it's important for you to understand that these tests I'm in favor of any test that causes you to start taking better care of yourself. And so whether we should be enthusiastic or not, it depends, because actually the book by Peter Whitehouse says that Alzheimer is a myth. In other words, it's a phony thing they dreamed up to get money for a section at the National Institute of Health. Now that's what he says, and he's been a director there. So he's telling you whatever you thought was Alzheimer's is not what you think it is. And I could challenge you and tell you that even if your mother and father both had Alzheimer's, they probably had a genetic thing called ApoE4. And yes, that would increase by fourfold the chance of them. In fact, you can really get pretty frightened if both mother and if everybody in the family has cancers. But you don't have to give up, because we studied in Tokyo and found that when you do the simple thing of lifetime detoxification, because there's nobody that can get all the lead out of your bones, I can assure you, I have had over 200 IV chelation, and I am an expert at this, and I soon realized that IV chelation made me feel great because it got all the lead out of my heart and my kidney, my brain, and my eye. I could see better, I could think faster. But it can't get it out of the bone, because the bone takes a period of time to turn over and make new bone. For an adult, that's 15 years. So that's why I got into the oral chelation, because the oral chelation allows me to tell you that you don't have to come back and see me every month and spend thousands of dollars. I wish you would. And we love people doing IV chelation, because IV chelation is a lot like getting a fancy wax job on your Ferrari. It's going to last more than if you just wash it every day. So there's nothing wrong with a deep cleansing, and intravenous is that. But it would be bad if you felt great and you thought that we've solved your problem, because you were born with a problem and you're still breathing and eating and consuming fluids, and all of those will add more lead, mercury, cadmium, and dioxin and PCB to you every day. So when I teach you that I know that I can take some of your loved ones, we have taken people from nursing home who've been there 10 years without knowing their family, and using magnetism, chelation, and nutrition, we have had them go back to running their business. So this is all within the realm of possibility. In fact, Harvard a month ago showed this powerful study that you could actually take mice that were very close to death. They were so old, they were like you and I at 96. And I was so sad to lose at 96 our wonderful, wonderful voice of exercise, who's done such a job for everybody all these years to enthuse us about taking care of ourselves. But what you can tell everybody is this: exercise changes everything for the better. But there's a few additional problems today if we're going to have brain plaque not lead to you losing your memory. So we have a website. It's called imhealth.com, and we measure everything that is related to aging. Now, what did we do to those old mice at Harvard? What we did is we wound up using tamoxifen, which is a synthetic form of estrogen, because you know everybody's so afraid of estrogen because they've been lied to. It was progesterone, synthetic progesterone, that made the problem. It was never a problem with estrogen. So all the women who are being told that they should suffer with brittle bones and depression and insomnia and aches and pains and vaginal dryness and hot flashes, they are not being told the truth. We have the program, but it starts with you using herbal remedy from Thailand, HRT, which is a safe, natural form of what was in the tamoxifen. And the tamoxifen is what the Harvard researchers gave those old mice that made their brains come back, their brain cells came back, the testicles grew again, everything grew again, and they became actually functional when they were virtually on their deathbed. So now I'm talking about new ways to use vitamins. So vitamins, and in the case of HRT, which is not a vitamin, it is an herbal product out of the diet, an herb that we eat in northern Thailand, where they have the lowest incidence of breast cancer in the world, and we've been able to prove that HRT will actually treat many forms of breast cancer cell lines in a culture and make them stop proliferating. So we are very confident, since we have the lowest incidence of breast cancer in the world there, that we're on to something very important with what I'm teaching you about here, but that's in my lecture on H, which is the hormones, and that's where I teach you that I, as a man, do take testosterone, and I do take DHEA, and I sleep with melatonin. I cover a lot of details there. But I want to tell you in this talk here about new use for vitamins, Professor Jasper Wren, University of California at Berkeley, at the Ames Research Lab showed that when you use these special methylation support, which I repeat for you, is beyond B12, sublingual, take one every day without fail, and take my power drink, and if you can't afford that, at least get on the Bioenergy C, which is a vitamin C delivery system with both trimethylglycine and methylsulfonomethane. So our tricks are to have you understand that when I support your methylation, as they did in this research, they could stop the epigenetic change, and the mice didn't have to have diabetic, brown offspring that were obese. They could have lean, brown offspring again because of methylation support. So this is pretty exciting. And so that as we're getting into a new age, I want everybody to know that the genetic testing is going to offer some help, but you know the biggest help is this. The biggest help is when you are honest about what you are willing to do to stay healthy. And I have found, because I cut my teeth some 38 years ago in canceling bypass on everybody, that when people came to me and Stanford had told them that all they needed to have bypass, and they came to me, they paid attention to everything I said because they didn't want to have their chest split open. And so I became kind of an expert at dealing with motivated patients. Now that we're soon going to have a cancer test that'll find one cancer cell out of 1 billion, I'm going to have a lot more motivated cancer patients, and they are going to never show a lump or bump. They're never going to have what we call clinical cancer, because that takes 7 years to get that bad. So I want to keep a lot of people alive. But many people don't care about the cancer. They're not worried about it. They're not even worried about the heart disease. But I can send you to premierheart.com and get you an EKG test that is 100 times more sensitive than the ones they give to you today, that replaces angiograms. But if you fail that test, in a sense, when you failed your cancer test, it's not bad news, because it just motivates you to test my hypothesis that you can do what I teach you to do, and I can make your cancer cells in the bloodstream go away, because nothing is easier than getting rid of early cancer before it's a lump and bump, and long before they fry you and burn you and give you chemo and wreck your entire immune system with all the crazy stuff they do to treat cancer today. So it's nice if I have virgin cancer patients who haven't yet got the lump or bump, but have just got abnormal tests like you get if you go to caprofile.net, or you can try the one that's called utestq.com. So DNA methylation. Methylation, I repeat to you, is why you're going to look not 1 year older 10 or 20 years from today, because I don't like a copy of a copy of a copy. I want, when you make the new cells look as exactly like the last cell it replaced. And you can't do that without methylation, and they have given you enough bisphenol A to impair your body's ability to methylate, which is kind of making another way to say choline, folate, B12, all these things, methionine, all the things I can give you that will support your body's natural ability, accidental methionine. These are all things that can assist you, and you don't really need to have a lot of expensive tests to show you where the toxins are and what their names are, because there isn't anybody we've ever tested. Bill Moyer on television gives us his blood so that we can report it on EWG.org. We test babies. No one has ever passed the test. But of course, when you're depressed, the doctor just goes and wastes your money and puts you on an antidepressant. It's not a total waste, because the antidepressants that do work, and the reason it takes 6, 8, 10 weeks to work, is because the antidepressants are now known to be working through stem cells. And so they are making you help your body make new cells and rewire your brain, so you can deal with all the bad things that have happened more efficiently. And I can do that with the magnetic field that helped with the detoxification program that I call Power Drink, and helped with the nutrient support program that I lecture about and explain on my website in great detail. And Longevity Plus has customer support people that can explain these things to you. But it's important. The sublingual folic B12 has got to be part of it. The betaine is in the special form of vitamin C. So I'm giving you these tricks so your body won't have these deficiencies in methylation, so that you will have the trimethylglycine and the MSM, which are in the bioenergy C. So that's a teaspoon of that. If you take a teaspoon of that, you're getting 4,000 milligrams. You take that twice a day, and you take that without fail for the rest of your life, you're going to have absolutely better health than the people who were not lucky enough to learn about it. But you can even do better, because we now have the vitamin C stick test, and you can wet that stick with your urine, and if it doesn't go all the way to yellow color, you have not taken enough of the bioenergy C to get the optimal benefit that vitamin C can do. And remember, Tom Levy's book is called Curing the Incurable. And if you were to get that book, you would find that there isn't a toxin from arsenic to PCBs and carbon tetrachloride in the dry cleaning plant that we can't help you with if we give you enough C. So there's a reason to my madness. And so this simple idea of a VitaCheck C, you buy a bottle of these. Please spend 10 bucks. Be a big spender. You're going to spend 20 cents a test, and you're going to test everybody you love or even think you love, or anybody whose bills you're going to have to pay when they get sick, and test them. And 14% of youngsters in Canada stay green. If they stay green, that simply means that their toxin load is so heavy that they can't handle it at all. And in the old days, we would have called it scurvy. They are so low on vitamin C that whatever happens to their health, they will not really recover until somebody brings them some healthy vitamin C. Now, we've learned that people are going to, there's all kinds of C, and there's some you can buy for a penny, and there's some that cost $40 a bottle. So there's a reason for the $40 bottle, and that's real simple. 1 teaspoon 3 times a day can keep you excreting this much C in your urine. And you couldn't have that much in your urine unless you had high levels of vitamin C in your blood. And so if you have high levels of vitamin C in your blood and you get hit by an auto accident, or you fall down the stairs, or you eat some food that is badly tainted, you're going to live, whereas this guy over here is not going to make it. So the trick is very simple. Test your loved ones. If they're here, buy them some bioenergy C, 1 teaspoon for an average adult of my size and weight and age. 1 teaspoon roughly morning, noon, and night is going to keep me there. Some people might get away with 1 teaspoon twice a day. But this is the optimal range that we use in all the cancer clinics, like Dr. Dawes in the Bad Aibling Clinic, St. George in Bad Aibling, Germany, Dr. Friedrich Dawes, or the Reardon Clinic in Wichita. These clinics that treat cancer naturally know that patients will stay alive far longer, no matter what their diagnosis, if they will take enough C to keep that on their urine test. But it's always going to do better if you're supporting the methylation process. So when you support the methylation process, you're going to take sublingual B12 and the methylated form of folic acid. You see, it's called folinic, because when you look at even the multiple that I put in the Beyond Chelation Improved, which those 9 pills is my foundation to put hospitals out of business. Anybody lucky enough to take those 9 pills called Beyond Chelation Improved twice a day for an average American has been lucky enough to not enter the hospital with a fatal heart attack or a fatal stroke in many, many, many years. So that's pretty good protection. But you're still not getting all of the folic acid, because we only put in those tablets the affordable. Some of these folic acids run $6,000 to $15,000 a kilogram. So those you're only going to get in the sublingual Beyond B12, which I hope you will all start to really get, because we can really treat depression and help deal with early memory losses with sometimes just as little as getting that sublingual B12 under the tongue every single day. And a lot of women find that it gives them energy and stops their migraine, and they take 2 and 3 a day. And if you combine that with the extra vitamin C and you have it around, a lot of bad days can become very, very good days. But it's exciting to know that the stem cells are what all the research is starting to show is why the pulsed electromagnetic field therapy is helping so many people. And so last week I did a webinar, And those who didn't get it, all you have to do is go to GordonResearch.com and you will be able to watch and hear some amazing things about the $60,000 machine being used at Stanford and UCLA that's treating depression that has not responded to any other treatment. And I think you'll see why I'm proposing that all of our best doctors are going to need to put one of these $500 a month leasing machines into their practice so that everybody can get some of this recharging of the transmembrane potential of your cells. So PEMF has been shown now over the last 4 decades. Everybody agrees that if you have a non-union fracture of a bone, if you treat it with one of these devices, that it's going to have the greatest possibility of healing when nothing else would heal it, and it's FDA approved for that. But now we know that not only are you normalizing the cell membrane potential, but you're also getting this nutrients like calcium and magnesium to go into the cell, and you're getting the oxygen levels, because remember, we have in the department stores in Tokyo now, we have oxygen bars free of charge because there's so little oxygen left in the busy cities because the cars are using up all the oxygen that we don't have enough energy to go back shopping. So they give you oxygen bars to breathe, but I can help not need oxygen and have people feel as energetic as I do when I raise the magnetic levels. So how does it work? Atomic excitement. It simulates the spin of the electron to store energy. And as you start to be able to understand all of these amazing things, the molecules align slightly with magnetic pulse. The pH will become alkaline. We've all heard cancer doesn't do well in an alkaline field. The blood becomes much thinner so I can get blood into that toe that otherwise is looking like it's going to die. And in fact, we have another treatment that I'll be describing at my workshop when I'm training doctors and public. Everybody's invited. We'll be here March 3 through March 7, and we will be at the Buttes, which is a free airport shuttle from the Sky Harbor in Phoenix. And on Sunday afternoon from 12 to 7 o'clock, we're going to be presenting a chance to actually feel some of these devices and learn what's behind these things, because these are things you haven't been hearing about until now. That the electromagnetic pulse is causing a little tiny microcurrent that lets the energy go through the neural pathway and changes how we interpret pain. So we're helping get rid of chronic pain, and 25% of Americans today admit that they have chronic back pain. But it's more exciting than that because it's also documented to treat osteoporosis. And we even have new electrical devices that have allowed us to cancel amputations of gangrenous feet. So there's a lot to learn that we'll be covering at my conference. And I repeat, that's March 3 through March 7, but the Sunday is March 6, and that's free of charge. We charge $50 for the workshop on March 3rd and for the workshop on March 7th. And the meeting of the Arizona Homeopathic and Integrative Medical Association is going on then all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning, and there's a fee for that of about $300, a little more for doctors, a little less for the public. But transcranial magnetic stimulation is actually the NeuroStar. If you pull up on it, it's at Stanford, it's at UCLA, and it's treating depression when nothing else could. So I hope that I give you some hope today, because even though I've identified some very depressing news that we're kind of poisoned our nest, I'm giving you the good news that I have answers that can help us fight back. It's a shame that we poisoned the nest and that we are going through earth changes, and we're going to have these problems that we're going to need to know how to restore our electromagnetic fields, whether you just sleep on a pad that weighs 100 pounds that's between your top and bottom mattress, or we wind up having you buy little magnets that you can use when you have a hand that gets stuck in the car door. You want to have a magnet that's the size of a cigarette pack so that you can. Magnetism is very, very beneficial in many ways. Those are obviously not going to turn on the stem cells or stop the depression that I can do with these $20,000 or $60,000 devices. But we have great success with migraine headache, and we are showing that we can heal things that have not healed. We're getting people to be able to talk again. As I said, with the 15-year-old that had never been able to string together a sentence, felt a fog lift with one single application of this magnetic device. It's pretty exciting. And you'll see people with dementia starting to make sense, Parkinson's disease responding. It's fun to have tools. But it's not that the PEMF can do everything, because the PEMF is never going to replace your need to take vitamin D or your need to be getting the lead out. Fortunately, the zeolite and the high-dose C and the oral chelation can help the toxins leave. And since the intravenous, which is wonderful, and I have, fortunately, 1,500 doctors who belong to acam.org, acam.org, any of them can give you IV, and the IV chelation, I repeat, is like doing an expensive Simonize on an expensive car. It's a deep cleansing, and never run away from getting an IV if you have the money and somebody's close by. And when you're there, get a Meyer cocktail with magnesium and B vitamins, because these will help your body in many ways. So here's the young man that was recovering from autism. Here's the lady that had the Guillain-Barré who was smart enough to buy the machine, and she's got the actual applicator in her hand, and these applicators are tied to the device that make us able to generate that amazing field. And we take the applicator that was in her hand and we put it slowly over the young man's head when the fog started to lift. And so then we can teach you that this kind of device is portable, and so they obviously can use it to treat a horse, so that a horse that's been out to pasture because it just got old and got stiff can amazingly enough come back. And this is for the home or the office where you don't need wheels to move it from wheel to wheel. So these are what the applicators look like. You sit on that applicator. We put this applicator under you, and each time it goes tick, 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 and we can adjust with this device, whether it's a very gentle tick to start the detoxification of your body, but after you've been doing it for enough treatments, you can go higher and higher, and you will see an involuntary movement of your body, because this is causing a form of massage, because every cell in your body is forced to exercise when we put this device on that part of your body. And because it restores so much energy to it, and at the same time it's like it's massaging the cells. So you can only use no more than 10 minutes for the first few treatments, and then you can start to try to go up a little higher. We can always do more on a bad ankle or a bad knee, but on your body where all the toxins are around that liver and your kidneys, we don't go very fast. And I'll be covering all of this in Orlando this weekend, and so I'm headed down there, and we expect to see a lot of our doctor colleagues there, and they're going to experience the device that we've been talking about. The conference that I have mentioned at the Buttes, this beautiful place, which is just minutes away from Sky Harbor, the actual conference of my homeopathic association, the actual conference is the 4th to the 6th, and I decided to put on a workshop before and immediately after it ends on Sunday noon and all day Monday to cover these exciting new developments. Always remember, we've talked to you today again about earthing, and you're going to one day buy a book about it, and know that when I talk about cardiovascular disease, I always talk about non-surgical oral chelation, and I am very excited about what it is doing. The Explore magazine is a great place for you to learn much of this, and if you go to explorepub.com, you will immediately be able to read many lectures from myself and many others, and they've saved everything for 10 years, so this is the bargain of the century. And it's a little like going to join my FACT group. I have been putting my article about my FACT and Fight program in the Green Living Journal for Arizona, but I have a separate website that you first go to Gordon Research, and anyone who feels they're a health professional scrolls down on this website, and it says join FACT, and you will belong to my free School of Advanced Medicine, where I share with 2,800 other health professionals around the world how to treat breast cancer and autism and Alzheimer's and diabetes, and how to live a long and healthy life. And I thank you so much for your participation today, and looking forward to a long and healthy life, and more information will be coming again next week. Thank you for your participation today. This is Dr. Gordon, feeling great and signing off.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. We encourage you to browse Dr. Gordon's website, which is www.gordonresearch.com. The products that Dr. Gordon has formulated are available through Longevity Plus. Please visit our website at www.longevityplus.com or call 800-580-7587 to place your order. We value all of you, and thank you for joining us.